Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Process Podcast. Liam Carmichael, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Edward. How are you?
I'm doing very well as well.
How's your day been?
Day's been good, thank you. What did we do today? It's a Wednesday. Woke up this morning, did some programming. I'm actually loving programming at the moment. All the new cycles starting for Liverpool competing elite, and a lot of my clients who are kind of in some way, shape or form training for the sport of CrossFit. It's like a big resetting time of the year. It's a busy time of year because it means lots of sit downs, lots of catch ups, lots of evaluations of the last year, lots of reflecting, lots of goal setting,
A lot of deep conversations.
And then, sitting down and basically mapping out macro, meso, micro cycles for next year. But it's really fun, really exciting. But I'm really looking forward to getting everyone going under the programs and then just kind of getting the ball rolling.
Well, it's definitely an exciting time of the year, right? I also think we've still got the Masters programming running as well as the Live, Perform, Compete Elite, right? So there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. Next week will be the last week of the Masters program. So basically every year when the Open finishes, we create a separate program for those of our Masters or age group people who qualify to the next round, because obviously they just need their own training because the dates and goals, etc. will change. They will be competing next week. Super excited to see how they go. And then if anyone qualifies to semi-finals, we'll be taking a more individualized approach, just like we have with Ant and Carlos, who are our two semi-final qualifiers. So that's my morning. Programming from home. Had every intention to ride my bike in this morning. I've told you that one of my goals, something I've been thinking about recently that I want to improve on, is time management.
Yeah.
And, I was like looking at the clock the whole time thinking, okay, if I want to get in for training starting at 10, I really need to leave at 9:15. It normally takes me 30 minutes, but I just want to be early. And then I ended up starting one piece of work, which I thought would take 5 minutes, and it took 15. And so I ended up having to take an Uber in because I just didn't want to be late. So I took the financial hit by taking an Uber
for the team
to ensure that I was here on time, and I hit my goal. So just a bit of backstory on why I set the goal of being on time was I recently did, for the very first time ever, a 360 feedback. So what that is essentially, and there are loads of companies online who do it for free. I've never done it before. But essentially you can sign up to one of these companies and you can kind of manually create the questions you want to ask, or they have a lot of preset questions and different kind of categories of what your job might entail. And you basically send it out to all of your team, your employees, your staff, and basically they give you unfiltered feedback on how you're doing. As it doesn't have to necessarily be for someone who's a boss or in a position of leadership. It can just be anyone in a company or anyone in a team. And it was really interesting. So I think basically everyone in the team responded. I think I had 16 or 17 responses, and it creates a whole bunch of different categories and it kind of puts it in like a graph. Yeah. So, but I had to actually start with a self-review. So I had to review myself and how I think I did in each of the areas.
Did that spit out a graph as well?
That spit out a graph. So basically it showed where my graph was relative to the general feedback.
So that's really cool.
Yeah. And so essentially, they tell you things like, this is a hidden talent of yours because you obviously don't think you're very good at it or you don't excel in this area, but your team as a whole think you do excel in it. Anyway, the feedback was really great, and I actually love the exercise, and I really want to find a way actually to incorporate 360 feedback into our entire team, because a lot of feedback that you guys get is only from me. Yeah. But I think it would be amazing for you guys to receive feedback from the rest of your colleagues as well. So I'm trying to find a way to integrate that into our company and have that to be something we do, maybe quarterly in the year or every 6 months or once a year. But one of the biggest things was the only thing really, the main area that I need to improve on,
management,
which you actually knew, because we were talking about, I think I was sat down with you and Izzy, and you were asking about the 360 feedback, and I was saying, actually I was really surprised. I was a lot more critical of myself than you guys were, and I was really blown away by the feedback. And you said, but what about time management? I was like, oh, you're right. Yeah, actually that was probably the poorest scoring I got on anything.
Well, I said that because that was the feedback that I written down was actual time management.
Yeah. I have a tendency to overrun meetings all the time, which is annoying because I overrun meetings in the moment. I think I'm doing a good thing to this person because I'm
Yeah.
giving them more time, but it actually ends up compromising the next person. And to be honest, it's just not a good habit to get into. And then I got into the habit of just like cutting things really fine. Try to squeeze out my task the very last minute so I can get into the next one right on time. But obviously that just doesn't really happen. Like this morning, I almost butchered myself again. So, and the last part of that as well was like when you're late and when you're rushing, you're creating an unnecessary stressor on yourself. You know, when you're hustling to get somewhere, it's not an enjoy. You're not present. You're just trying to not be late. And I don't want to create that extra stressor on myself. So, as of now, that's going to be my biggest target.
Well, I have noticed this week that you have been early for training, so I will give you that compared to last week. So
and I want you to hold me accountable.
I
if
will
I slip
hold you
up,
accountable, yeah, 100%.
You let me know. I mean, I have no doubt that the entire team will let me know.
I mean, just going back to the whole feedback thing, I know as coaches here at Coastal, what we try and do is if we are shadowing someone's class or maybe we jump into another coach's class, we'll try and always give feedback to that individual. Now, we ask that individual, are they ready to receive the feedback and how they would actually like the feedback? Because we've talked about feedback many times, but it's always like how you actually transfer that feedback to the person. Always ask, can I give you feedback? I mean, I know in the past I've just jumped in and I've gave someone feedback, or maybe someone's just jumped in and gave me feedback, and it's not just been the right time. Right, I've not been present, my mind's somewhere else, and someone's given me feedback, and obviously, you've got to treat that as a gift, but I think there is a time and a place, right?
Yeah, giving feedback and being time and emotionally sensitive, I think is really, really important. And one of our biggest values, and it comes under being honest and being humble, is that we give honest feedback when feedback is due. When you receive feedback, it's a gift. But you're right, there is a way that feedback should be given. And in fact, this is something that we've been dealing with quite a bit as a team. You know, as a team, we've been under more pressure, probably dealing with a bit more stress than we've been used to, having been closed for 4 months. And you know, just recently we had some feedback from some of our members, which was very valid feedback and was coming from a really good place because, you know, going back to the concept of assuming positive intent, sometimes we read a message and we take it personally, or we take it as criticism, or we feel that this person hasn't regarded our personal situation and what we're going through. But of course, at the same time, how's that person supposed to know? But, you know, going back to the concept, we were talking about API. When you assume positive intent, actually, you know what? It's not really criticism. It's coming from a good place. This person just wants them back here and doing things they love doing. But, you know, what's probably void in that feedback that was given was the emotionally sensitive part.
I mean, I know in times like like when you receive a feedback or you see feedback and you're not in the right headspace, maybe like the other night it was me, I was finishing off my dinner and I'd just seen the message and I kind of annoyed about that, but then I sat down and, like we said, assume positive intent and try and empathize with that other person. And I think that goes both ways, right? It's a two-way street. People need to empathize with the person who's giving feedback, and the person who's receiving the feedback needs to empathize with that person. And I think if we have that approach and the two minds go into it that way, then it just makes the process a whole lot easier, right?
Yeah. That's why communication on things like messages and emails and not face-to-face or phone conversations are hard.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Be misinterpreted 1,000 different ways. This is a really long-winded answer to how my day's been.
It is. I was waiting for my question, but hey.
Yeah, you wait your turn, pal. Okay, well, so where are we now on my day? Then we trained. We had a good session as a team.
We did train. It was great.
We're day 3 as a team, starting the new Live, Perform, Compete block. I think none of us are quite fully ready to be throwing ourselves into training.
Speak for yourself.
Oh, okay, I'm on week 3 of deload, to be honest, and I'm forecasting a 4th week on the horizon.
No, this is a reload, Edward.
It's a reload. But it's epic being back with the team.
No, it's been really good, yeah.
Following some structure again, because it's all been a bit just fragmented as the whole kind of quarterfinals and open season happened. Good sesh. Back in the office, did some programming here, and then just had a personal training client, and now I'm sat with you.
What a day.
How's your day been? What have you been up to?
My day has been very similar to yours. So woke up this morning, done some programming. We are actually in the process of changing our personal training coaching platform. We're moving from True Coaching. We're migrating everything over to our WODUP.
Yes.
Where we basically, WODUP we're using for that. That's for Live, Perform, Compete, Build, Live 30. So essentially just our group programming. But we've now decided to migrate all of our individual personal training clients onto that platform as well. It just makes it a bit easier, gives us a centralized system. Not going to lie,
change is hard,
and it is a bit of a pain in the pain in the ass, but looking at the long-term view, it will be better for both coach and client experience. So yeah, busy with that.
And how's that transition going?
Fairly easy. I've given myself, I think we've got until, was it the end of April?
Yeah, we said basically till 22nd of April, which is when our opening day is.
Yeah, I think that's a bit short, but hey, I will try.
You get moving, buddy.
I'll get moving. I think
actually just today I
Yeah.
created all my profiles for all my accounts on WhatsApp. I haven't started populating their programs yet, but I've at least created all of them. And so then just
Nice.
as I get to programming, I'll just,
yeah.
on that day, I'll move it over.
So I've done that. I've essentially done what you've done. I've populated all my clients, and I've done maybe three or four. And I'll do another 3 or 4 next week, and then maybe a 3 or 4 the next week after that. We'll see. But yeah, it's been good. It's a challenge, but with everything like changes, obviously, can be a bit of a challenge. It just takes more time, right?
Yeah.
But like we said, in the long run, it's going to be a better experience for coaches and clients. So
Yeah.
that's cool. Came in and trained. Like Ed said, training was good. It's been really good training with the team. Also, we talked about it last week. We're only running at what coaches we're running at, well, just the staff in total.
40%.
40%, but it still feels good. I mean, we're
Yeah.
6-7 people training together at the moment.
You just forget how big our team actually is.
Yeah, I mean, we took a picture this morning. We're all doing split squats lined up, and I said to Ed, I mean, that picture was good, but can you imagine how good that picture is going to look when we're all back in the gym? I think it's
Yeah.
going to be epic,
Yeah.
right? So looking forward to everybody getting back into Hong Kong, doing their quarantine, and just getting this rocket ship ready to take off again, right?
Yeah.
So training. Then I had a client outside, so obviously the gym's still closed. Went home, had a bit of lunch because I had forgot my lunch, so I had to go all the way back home. Luckily, I only live about 5 minutes away, which is sweet. And now I am back doing a podcast with you. So yeah, great.
How are you dealing with the PTs outside at the moment?
I
mean, you've been struggling with the heat recently.
I mean, hey, that's been 4 months we've been outdoor training.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty crazy when you reflect back. We've actually been doing this for 4 months.
Yeah. I was just saying to my client just now, like, we've been so lucky with the weather, though.
Oh yeah, unbelievable. I mean, I think it was
imagine
July.
it was 4 months in the middle of the summer in Hong Kong. It would be
a different story for sure.
Which we've actually done before. I think we've had one closure, which was pretty much in the middle of summer. And it was pretty brutal.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal, but it didn't last 4 months.
Yeah, true. You also I feel like you got one of your first doses of heat stroke the other day.
Yeah, so we went on it wasn't really a hike, I would call it was just a walk, right? Went on a walk, it was maybe 2 Sundays ago.
Oh, that was when we went down. We went to Port Phalam.
Port Phalam. So we went on a walk. So, bit of context, the Saturday it was raining, it was cloudy. It was actually pretty cold on the Saturday, right?
It was actually, yeah.
So, obviously woke up the Sunday, it's like, oh, blue skies, sun is shining, but because of the day before, it's like, it's not going to be that hot. So we met up with Ed and his partner. We went for a coffee, and then we went for it was supposed to be like a 60-minute walk, turned into like a 4-hour walk.
It was long, yeah.
It was a long walk. Obviously had my t-shirt off, getting some good vitamin D, got home, and my wife nearly had a heart attack because my forehead was as red as red.
Something red.
Yeah.
Something extremely red.
Like something really red. So that was on the Sunday. Obviously we came into work on the Monday, and I'd been obviously coaching outside. And I was outside for maybe 3 or 4 hours. I think just with me being obviously sunburning in because it was so hot outside, wearing my t-shirt, I came into a team meeting and I literally had to sit down. I was actually seeing stars. So yeah,
mate, it was comical.
it was uncomfortable.
You were
is
so
what it was.
Your face was so unbelievably red.
It was so like, you know that when you just like, I couldn't sit still. I was fidgety, like I needed water. I was hungry. I was like dizzy, and we're trying to discuss group programming, and I was like, I'm not good at this right now.
It's not good to laugh. I'll laugh at other people's misfortune, but
It was. I would have laughed as well, to be fair.
I mean, a lot of laughter actually comes from the misfortune of things and bad things happening. Cool. Well,
So,
Liam,
yeah.
we're opening next week.
Exciting times.
Yeah.
What are we, T-8 days?
We're about eight days away.
Yeah, because 8 days. Exciting times.
So this will essentially be over 1 quarter of the year of 2022, where we will have been closed as a gym.
I mean, that just 4 months of closure. I mean, if you had to say to any business a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, well, in a couple of years, you're going to be closed for 4 months, and all the other months that we had closed the year before.
This is our 5th round of
You'd have been
closures.
like, no way, I'll never survive that. And hey, here we are, and I would say we're still thriving.
We're thriving. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we're thriving
Yeah.
in many ways. I mean, like financially may not be thriving, but we're here.
We're
We're here and we're ready to climb back. when I think about this round of closure, it doesn't feel like 4 months. And I'm trying to think about what I've done in the last 4 months. And I actually really struggled to piece together like what has actually happened in the last 4 months. Feels like I haven't been doing outdoor PTs for 4 months. Feels like we haven't had members in here for 4 months. Feels like we haven't had so many of our team members here for 4 months. Do you know what I mean? Is that just me, or do you feel the same?
No, when I reflected back on it being 4 months, I was like, holy shit, that does not feel like 4 months. And it just goes to show how, like, I mean, I know speaking for myself, it's how busy we actually are. Like, we fill our days, and when you fill your days, then you're enjoying what you're doing, and that time doesn't seem to drag on, right? That's just speaking from my personal experience.
No, I'm the same, and I feel like my days haven't been any less busy relative to when the gym's actually open. You know, we've actually used this time to do a lot of other things, and I think a lot of us have also, I mean, personally speaking as well, like I've used this time to actually do other things like explore Hong Kong. I mean, every time the gym has closed, I think it's been, let's say it's been 2 and a bit years since the pandemic all started. That was when I really first started trying to spend a bit more time exploring the beauty of Hong Kong. And just recently, well, in this 4 months, I've ventured even further out, kind of going to things like new territories and places. I've lived here my entire life, a place I didn't even know existed, doing things like snorkeling. Like, I never thought I'd snorkel in Hong Kong and see anything, and actually, like, there's amazing scenes underwater and so much to see.
Well, I think you always forget when you're brought up in the place and you live in that place, like, you forget what's on your doorstep. It's not like you go until you go travel, or maybe you're stuck in that destination, or you're thinking, well, shit, actually there's so much to see. It's the same when I think about Scotland. I mean, there's places in Scotland that I've still not been, but now that I don't live in Scotland, I'm like, I cannot wait to go there when I travel back, right? So I think that's a cool, just a perception to have, right?
And how have you grown? Have you evolved? Have you changed over the last 4 months of gym closure? Have you had any epiphanies in life? Have you had more clarity? Have you had less clarity?
No, I think I don't think there's one moment that really stands out, but I feel like I said a couple of minutes ago that we have been really busy, and we have used this time to really grow the business. I mean, in terms of our clientele at Coastal, it's like, okay, right, well, how can we provide value, right? Value is number one when we are running a business. So it's okay, how can we provide as much value as possible to the people that are stuck at home, essentially? So we've been doing Zoom LPCs. We've been doing a lot in terms of our Coastal community. And then in terms of our process programming, I feel like we have literally taken it to another level. Like, I mean, personally, I really dialed in on the Build program. We got some really cool content creators on board. So yeah, it's been busy, and I feel like I'm growing, yeah. The course as well, never forgot about that. So that's been going on, like we talked about last week. That's been going on since October. That's pretty mental as well. That does not feel like October either.
And we feel like we hit a bit of a milestone this week, because I think we've gotten to the point on the individual course where most of the educational content on consultations, assessments, and program design is more or less done now. We've got one more chapter to go where we want to talk about the coaching professional. But we're now going to kind of just put a pause on it and just do a really thorough review of everything. Yeah. Get it out to our team and have them actually go through the course as well, give us feedback. But I think you made a good point, and I thought about it this morning, which was like, let's not rush this. Like, the quality needs to be amazing, because we want this course to last the test of time. Yes, we'll be updating it for sure and adding things here and there, maybe changing our opinions and thoughts on some things, but at the end of the day, the better we can make it now, the longer it's going to stand in the future.
I mean, I think just going back to the conversation that me and you had yesterday, I mean, we've all got this vision of what Coastal and the process programming can be, and there's so much work to do. And I said to you yesterday, it's as much as it's exciting, it's actually scary as well. But then we took the conversation we took the lens of, well, actually, let's just, how do we get the process programming in a Coastal to where we want it to be? Is just by taking that day-to-day approach, right? It's like turning up and it's like, okay, what have we got right now? We want to do this individual course. So let's give our 100% to this, not rush it, because it's easy for me and you to say, all right, just let's give us a deadline. Let's get it done by the end of May, Right, sweet, okay, but is that going to be rushed? We don't want to rush it. Like we said, we want to do this 100%. Once that's ticked off, that's done. We just move on to the next thing, and essentially that's how we're constantly moving forward, right?
And this is exactly what we say to clients all the time, and that's why our slogan is trust the process. The whole concept of trusting the process is that it's important to have an end goal or an outcome that you desire, but once you have that set, you know, you've just got to put your time and energy into the day-to-day, into doing the things that hopefully one day might lead you to achieving that outcome. And it's so funny with the process. You know, the process programming started 2.5 years ago. Started essentially when we got locked down and we began the Gymless program. And like where it is now and the things we're talking about with the process program, what we want to be doing in the future, like none of those things were within the vision when we first started the company. And it's always been something I've always struggled with, you know, in starting a new business or starting a new project, to always get asked a question like, have you written a business plan? You know, what's the 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goal? What's the 10-year goal? And I'm always like, fuck, I don't really know. I've never really done that. I've got an idea of what I want to be doing, but I kind of take it day to day, and just if what I'm doing today is lighting my fire and I'm doing it with full passion and commitment and gusto, then I'm going to keep on doing it. And where that takes me, then we'll just kind of see.
Well, essentially, that's just it's the stacking of the habits, right? It's that 1% every day, every single day. It doesn't have to be. I posted something on Instagram yesterday. It was like, it doesn't have to. People have got a perception where it's all or nothing, right? It has to be 100% every single day. Well, actually, it doesn't. It just has to be maybe some days it's going to be 100%. Maybe some days it's going to be 25. Maybe some days it's going to be 10%. But the essential, what I'm trying to get is that you're constantly just moving that needle forward, whether that be that 5%, 10%, or 100%. When it's a good day, strike when the iron's hot. We said that when we're training, right? It's like when it's good to go, you go. But not every day is going to be rainbows and butterflies. There's going to be hard days as well, right? So it's just like taking that approach of, okay, right, well, I'm just going, what can I do today that's going to better myself from yesterday, and done.
I mean, it is actually exactly the same as training. It's you know that you can't give 100% to training every single day. Because that's just not sustainable. And the natural cycle from a longevity standpoint is like we're trying to find something that we can do sustainably well for a long time. And it's nice, a good reminder to bring that back to like business and professional endeavors as well.
Nice.
I'm super excited about the individual coaching course. That's something I think about all the time. And even like with the individual coaching course, like we've changed who it's going to be for. And I think we're still not even sure like exactly how it's going to be delivered. At first it was like, oh, it's going to be for our team. Then we're like, well, it's going to be for our affiliates. Then we're like, mate, I think this is really fucking good.
Let's just get it out to everybody.
I think the whole world needs to see this course. And so, yeah, who knows where that's going to go. We were even talking yesterday about like the future of the process programming and, you know, what we envision. It's the first time we'd actually ever talked about it. This was after our workout. We all sat getting our 20 minutes a day outside and just talking about, you know, what have we learnt from this closure period. And one of the things we learnt was, or just were reminded on, which has been the theme for the last 2 years for me, is like, you know, when all your eggs are in one basket and it's a brick and mortar, you know, these things can happen over and over again. And so many times they're going to be outside of your control. It might be government's closing down. It might be an accident in the building. It might be so many things can happen that stops your business running. And, you know, I think about it as well. It's like, you know, had we started the process programming 5 years ago, we wouldn't have all our eggs in one basket. We'd be able to, you know, essentially have that other aspect of business to bank on, to be able to pay our staff, to know that financially we're going to make it through. And so this has been a bigger reminder for me financially as a business, like we need to invest in it. And also it's like, it's just so exciting for me right now. It's really where I want to put and expend a lot of energy. You know, when I think about Coastal, like we've got some amazing new coaches coming up. We've just, you know, pretty much finished off the apprenticeship program with Andrew and Karan. They're about to step in and start their journey as coaches, and I'm so excited to see where they go with it. And so, you know, Coastal is a really important part of the big picture, because this is kind of like our social proof. Like, yeah, okay, we have got some experience in this. We've done some good things. This is what we believe to be the gold standard of what essentially a process programming affiliate gym should be now. And so our goal, the affiliation program, is that we're not just going to sell the program, or don't just pay us $10 and you get access to the program. It's not what we want. You can do that and be an online subscriber if you want. We want to essentially create or be a part of creating coastal fitnesses all over the world and have that representation via the process programming.
I mean, one thing that I always say to myself and to other coaches, and something I learned very early on, is that if you want to be doing this for a long time, like, you have to educate yourself, you have to invest in yourself, and whether that be you're running an affiliate right now and you want to educate your coaches, because I overheard the conversation you were talking about yesterday. It's like, well, if you want to be doing this for a long time, you're going to have to make enough money for you to be doing this a long time. And I feel like with functional fitness gyms and CrossFit gyms, it's that people are not actually making enough money, or maybe they're not just invested. Maybe the actual business is not paying them enough money, right? It's a very slippery slope. I mean, most of us get into this as a passion, right? We all love fitness. We all love talking to people. We all love helping people. But at the end of the day, if you're not making enough money to bring bread to the table and support other things that you have in your life, well, you're not going to be doing this for a long time, right?
Yeah, it was a really interesting conversation I had yesterday. And we have a lot of conversations like this, which is essentially people inquiring about the affiliate program and just kind of wanted to find out a little bit more information. But those calls when we have initial consults with potential affiliates around the world are also kind of a vetting process for us to decide, is this actually someone, or is this a company that we want to partner with and essentially be a representation of our brand? And what goes into that is obviously like there's logistical things like what's your gym space, what equipment do you have, and can you actually run our programs in your gym? But more importantly, it's like, do we see eye to eye as business owners and head coaches? Like, is your mission similar to us? Like, do you actually want to impact people's lives, or is this just a fun side hobby where you want to make some money, you don't actually care about helping people? And so that's super, super important. So are you going to say something?
No, I mean, I look at it as through the lens of, it's essentially we're taking on a client, right? It's like, we know as coaches, you can't work with everyone. There's going to be people out there that just don't align with you as a person, and that's okay. There's a million other coaches. Yeah. But like we talked about yesterday about the affiliate program, it's like we want to share the same values. Like there's mentorship calls, etc. And if someone doesn't really want to be there, it's like a client. I mean, we've all trained clients that turn up and secretly they don't actually want to be there. We're not aligned. Intentions are just misaligned. And it's not a very fun session, right? So just reeling that back to what the affiliate program is, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I can totally see from a new perspective, potential affiliate coming in, like, it's daunting. It's like, I'm basically sat here saying,
it's a scary process, like, for sure.
Listen, like, this is a gold standard that we want to create now. So if this is what the gold standard looks like, where are you at right now? Okay, well, there's a lot of distance, or maybe there's not much distance that needs to be covered in order for us to bring you up to that gold standard. And that is a very overwhelming thing. There's so many things that go into, like, changing your gym. It's like the way that you pay your coaches is one of them. The way that you invest in professional development, changing business systems, changing your membership prices, rebranding your company sometimes, re-looking at the way that you take on group clients, assessments and fundamentals, creating the avenue for personal training. That's something we really believe in, because, we believe that we need the coach to be a professional that has income coming in from a number of sources and has enough to support themselves and their future and family.
Well, it's just going back to that phrase, it's not having your eggs in one basket, right? Yeah. It's the same idea.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I love those conversations. And having those conversations with people, because a lot of the times I can see like light bulbs going off as we're talking. But then after the light bulbs go off, then the realization sits in like, fuck, how do we actually go about changes? Where do we even start? Like there's so much we need to change and evolve. And I always just say, listen, it's not my job to convince you to do this. The very first thing that I think so many gyms are falling short on is having clarity on who they want to be and who they want to serve. And if we think about why so many people don't stay in their gyms that they're in, is that because there's a disparity between what they think they're getting and what they actually get. So perhaps what's advertised on a website, or what they see in imagery on Instagram, or what their friend tells them about the experience, they come and experience it and they're like, well, that's actually not what I'm receiving anymore. I think I'm going to spend my money somewhere else. I'm going to move to that next gym. And I certainly know when we kind of reevaluated, what we were doing here, the first question I asked to all my members was like, what is Coastal to you? And it was really interesting to hear, even from long-serving clients who've been with us for multiple years, what every answer that I got was different from the way that I defined what Coastal was. And if you think about that, that means every person on the street, when they ask, hey, which gym do you go to and what's cool about it, and everyone's saying a different thing, including what I'm saying, like that's a sign for me of a weak brand.
Yeah.
Right? Because you got a whole different, what we want everyone to be singing off the same song sheet. And that takes time. And I think we're probably getting to the point where we have that consistency. Now, what one person might value might always be different to someone else. Someone might value coaching and programming. Someone else might value community. Someone else might value, value for money. But generally speaking, when we talk about what we do here, I want that consistency across everyone.
Well, I think it's having that clarity, but it's also being authentic and believing in what you're saying, right? Going back to your 360 feedback, it was awesome that they actually asked you, how do you perceive it first? What's your lens? And then they let everybody in. It's just that comparison. And like you said, if you've got a perception of yourself, if you're something, but everyone else is like thinking it's something else, well, there's a disparity there, right? There's a misalignment. So I think it is important, just like I'm going back to the feedback thing, that it's important to understand what you're saying and get that feedback. Are you presenting to the world your authentic self? And if you're not, why is that? Where is that misalignment?
Yeah. And I think so one of the big things that pulls us away from authenticity is trying to please people or trying to be liked by everyone. And that happens in business as well. Yeah. You have the client who comes in and wants to join the gym, but then they say that, oh, the membership prices are a bit expensive. And what do we do? Oh, I'll give you a discount. Or I'll give you a special rate to get you in here. There you go. You're not being authentic to yourself and what you want to be. And obviously there's so many parallels that we do ourselves as people. Since you joined us, what you do on a daily basis as a coach has evolved quite a lot. And the reason I'm thinking about this question is because we've just been talking about the process and the individual coaching course. Are you surprised to see what you're doing now? Like, did you envision that yourself?
Thinking back to why I get into this career and my passion and what I do, this is something that I did envision. Like, did I know it was going to happen so soon? Was it going to happen in 5 months, 5 years, or 10 years? I didn't know.
And what was that vision?
That vision was, doing what I do on a daily basis, but also providing education to other coaches, and writing programs, like designing programs. I mean, that's one of my biggest passions is program design. I geek out on it. I love it. I can talk about it for hours, but also seeing, like, traveling and seeing how other gyms work and how other coaches go about their business, I felt like I maybe had something that I could share. Like, it wasn't, I didn't come in thinking, I'm Billy Big Balls, I'm going to share all these things. No, it wasn't that. It was just through my personal experience and through what I've experienced. I just wanted to share it. And if that helped someone and someone resonated with that, sweet. And I came into this role, and I'm now in this role where I started to where I am now. There has been an evolution, and it's been really cool to see.
Talk about that evolution.
I mean, when I came in, like, I know that when we did have the conversation, when we were interviewing, going back, there's almost over a year now, it was like, what do you want to be doing? And it was like, I did say at that point that I did want to help other coaches somehow. I wanted to grow, I wanted to evolve, I wanted to develop, I wanted to write programs. And now I find myself in the position of what I envisioned maybe 2-3 years ago, and it's really cool to see. Like, I can't really describe how that's really evolved, but it's like now sitting here reflecting back, I'm thinking, well, actually, this is really fucking cool what I'm doing.
I mean, I can remember pretty much all the milestones that happened that you hit before the next, like, job responsibilities came into your plate. I think so. I'll share it if I can remember it properly. But I remember with the build program, so that was something that I was writing myself. But I also knew that there was I was just writing too many programs: Live, Perform, Compete, Elite, and Build, and the Gymless program. Actually, at the same time. Yeah, and I realized, actually, I kind of looked within the team and was like, I'm sure there are people within the team who can do a better job. at doing this than I am, because right now I'm doing a bit too much. I'm not giving the love to each of the programs that they require. I mean, actually, it was even writing Live 30 at the start as well. So, yeah, kind of was like looking within the team, being like, okay, who have we got on this team that might have an interest in this? I looked at Babs, and like she was already, she'd done a lot of the Gymless program herself, because she'd been traveling so much, and every time she traveled, she basically had to follow the Gymless, but she was super dedicated and kind of became like a figure within the Gymless community, someone who was always posting scores. She was answering questions on the water good when people would ask questions about the Gymless program. And, you know, Babs, like, she'd never been in charge of like writing a group program before, but I fully knew she had the capability to do it. So I had the conversation with her to be like, you know, what do you think about start taking over the Gymless program? And she was like, fuck, that would be fucking awesome. I'd love that. Babs never swears, by the way. So it's more like, oh yes, that'd be awesome, Ed. So we sat down and like, you know, I basically mentored her for about 4 weeks, where I would write the program with her and kind of just share what I was thinking. And then, then she did a trial week, and I was like, you're good to go.
You're good to go.
And, you know, like after that moment, like the Gymless program, which at this point already had, you know, over 4,000 people subscribed to it. Not everyone logging scores maybe, but, you know, it's growing all the time, because I just think it's something that the world's going to need forever. You don't have to be locked down to follow a cool structured program, be a part of a community where you don't need any weights. But the Gymless program started to blossom when Babs took over it, because suddenly someone was like giving it the love that it needed. She was active, you know, giving people feedback, and it was just awesome. And so I thought, okay, well, where else can we do this? Like, I know the build program has so much potential, and that's why I started it. And I remember just thinking within the team, like, who has the skill set to be a part of this? And I know you were already in the programming that you were doing for your clients. It was a lot of your clients are very build-esque, you know, like body composition, general health. Before coming to Coastal, that was very much your niche, kind of like the functional bodybuilding route of programming and training. So it's something you felt really comfortable with. And so I remember having the conversation with you, like, what do you think about taking over the build program or being a part of the build program? I think it was the start. And I think we did a very similar process of kind of like,
yeah, you were writing the first couple of weeks, and then I'd be okay. So you'd be okay, write A and B, and I'll write the rest, or write the warm ups, I'll write the rest. And then eventually it just evolved into, we wrote the first block together. After, like, there was a kind of mentorship, then we wrote the first one together, and then the second one, we were like, right, sweet, good to go.
Yeah. And now it's cool, because, I mean, obviously now you basically have full reign on the program. But I do really like that when we start new blocks, you still ask me, because it's not mandatory. I don't, that the last thing I want to do is be a micromanager and ask everyone, because, you know, we have a lot of coaches now who are in those kind of head coach programming roles, writing programs for groups. And like, it's not a necessity where you have to run everything by me, because obviously you pass your mentorship, like you're good enough for the job, so you go ahead and do it. But I do always really appreciate that you always ask and say, like, you know, Ed, new block starting, would love to sit down and pick your brains about it. And I'm just giving you appreciation now, Liam, to say, like, I really appreciate you doing that and enjoy that process.
No, I think, like, going back to why I actually do it, it's just feedback, right? It's like more eyes on the program. Maybe I've got a bias. Maybe I'm really fucking biased in something. Maybe I really love split squats. Something so simple, right? If you get just a second pair of eyes, oh, Liam, why don't you change that rest period? Oh, make that 3 sets instead of 4. And essentially that's how we grow as a team, right? We that's the key part of being a team, is that we're all players in the team. It's not just one person, right? And going back to here at Coastal in the process program, I think that we do that really well. So we find people and we put them in roles that they really enjoy doing, and that's essentially how we flourish, and that's how we're always leveling up, because people are in roles that they actually want to do.
We actually had that conversation this Monday in our team meeting, where we were team meetings, and we talked about book club on this podcast all the time, but basically it's essentially group therapy, and we share our struggles, and we're very vulnerable with each other, and basically talk about it as a group. And one of our coaches said was that she felt often she gets pulled into comparing herself to others, and when she gets wrapped up in comparison, she often feels inadequate. She feels like what she's doing isn't good enough, and she definitely compares herself to me, because she's, you own a business and you're a coach and you do all these things, and I'm just a coach and I'm just PTing people, and
you're the man with many hats, she calls you.
Yeah. And she did the same thing for you, like Liam, you've got this vision on the future and you're getting after it and you've grown so fast, and And like, what am I doing? But I think it was a really good reminder for the team. It's like, we're not all the same.
Yeah.
And the thing that lights your fire is different to the thing that lights my fire. And as a company, we want everyone doing something that lights their fire. If you're doing a job that's not within your interest, or you're not that excited to do it, then number one, stop doing it. And number two, let's find someone else who actually is really passionate about it. And that's just a constant evolution that we're always doing. And what lights someone's fire yesterday might not be the same thing that lights their fire today.
Yep.
And so, we're just okay. It's not, I'm having this conversation with one of the coaches who's been running a program on a Sunday, and she's like, I just don't want to do that thing on a Sunday anymore. And I'm like, cool, well, let's find another day to do it. Because at the end of the day, like, you're the person with the skill set that's, running this program. And so if you don't have an interest in running it a day, then I don't want to make you run it on that day. Let's just try and find another solution and do it. And it's just a very different style of leadership compared to what I used to do.
Well, I think that speaks volume to our culture here at the Process and the Coastal program. It's like, well, we're okay to go and say to our leader or our boss, well, actually, I'm not really comfortable doing what I'm doing. Can I do something else? Yeah, sweet. No worries. Let's find, what do you like doing? Do you maybe want to train up coaches to fill that role that you're doing now? Yeah, cool. Let's do it.
And that's exactly where our conversation ended up going. Sorry, I got a bit sidetracked, but that's okay. Like, it's okay. You got to find the thing that you love and you need to own it. And don't compare. I don't want a whole bunch of robots all doing the same thing. Like, I want us to have our individual flares and our specialities and the things that we love doing. And yeah, it's just a constant balancing act of trying to find who wants to do what and empowering that person to do that thing.
So where do you see your role in the next couple of years? Because obviously I see your role on a daily basis. You're still working with in-person clients. You've got online clients. You're writing programs. You're running meetings. You're networking. What do you envision your future looking like?
Good question. I think at some point I will be making a transition to be a lot more full-time with the process programming. It's something I'm really, really excited about. I mean, listen, like, part of the overall goal and part of the business plan that we never created for the process programming was to be traveling around and networking with people around the world. We used to travel around and run athlete camps every 2 to 3 months where we'd create an athlete experience for 2-3 days and basically tie in a bunch of education with really fun workouts and meet a whole bunch of new people. I 100% want to be doing that. I want to be doing that in the affiliates that we have around the world, but also going to new places that we don't have presence in and creating a community there. With the course, like, I fully envision us actually running 2-day seminars where we're actually teaching contents of that course and doing live workshops. We was even talking about running a build seminar where, something Liam just came in one day. It's like, so I've been dreaming about the build program, and here's what the seminar is going to start with. The first 10 minutes we're going to be talking about. But it was cool. I was like, I never even thought about running a build seminar, but you're right. We can't just run a training experience because we have so many different clientele now who's a part of our program with different goals. And I think it's important to run it. God, you look like you got something on the tip of your tongue.
No, I was envisioning a conversation in the pattern tree, and I'm just laughing because then we mentioned it again on the grass when we were talking about the grand vision. And we were laughing again. But essentially, what we're saying is that we've obviously got our live, perform, compete, elite. So that's obviously very CrossFit, right? We're mixed model. The other experience that we envision running is build. So that would maybe be like a 2-day seminar. And we're actually talking maybe about program design. We're talking about why we actually program based off muscles. And then we're getting into the nitty gritty of movement setup and execution and etc. So I think it's a lot of work. Again, like I said in the beginning, it's scary but exciting.
Yeah, I mean, like, so there's all of that to look forward to, and like, I can't wait to be doing that again. And I know the process program will grow massively in terms of things like online subscribers and our affiliate program when we actually start to get to hang out with people and meet people and develop those human relationships. And the next thing is obviously think about the course side. This individual coaching course it's going to be great, and it's going to be something that's going to stand the test of time. I really do believe, the principles that we're talking about aren't really going to evolve and change. Maybe the nuances and small little details might evolve, but generally speaking, this will be something that's going to help coaches around the world for a really, really long time. And I want to create more. Like, I want to create some form of business systems course to help not only our affiliates, but also maybe other business owners around the world and how they can, run a more efficient, streamlined business. I want to think about how we can educate group class coaches, you know, because that's something I think doesn't get all that much love. It's just kind of like you do your CrossFit level 1 and 2, and that's pretty much it. But I think there's other aspects to that are really important that I think coaches are missing out on. So then there's the whole education side of thing as well. And, you know, like I also love working with athletes. I talk about it all the time. And I really envision us having one day multiple athletes competing at the CrossFit Games or whatever the highest level of expression of the sport is. Who knows, maybe we even have someone standing on the podium at the CrossFit Games one day. I know that's a long goal, but that's okay. Like, you know, until then, we'll just keep on chipping away and doing the right things. But I just really want to foster and create this amazing community online in all our different programs. But like you said, like I think where we're at now is that we have, in essence, the programs that we want to be offering. You know, we have evolved a bit. Like, you know, Live, Perform, Compete was how we started. The elite program was a natural evolution of that, which was going to basically cater to really high level athletes. And then the build program was basically like, you know, for general population, you want to build muscle, get strong, and be a part of a community. I don't really see us perhaps like evolving too much more than that. And like I want to own that segment. I want to be the best in the world at doing what we do there, and not be a jack of all trades and not offer 1,000 different programs. And it's very much the same with what we're doing at Coastal here. It's like we're not for everyone. We are a very small part of the market, and that's okay. We know there's not that many people out there, but those people are out there.
Well, I think just like we talked about, we are clear on our intentions. We're clear on who we want to attract, and we're clear on who we want to work with. And I think when you've got those intentions and they're crystal clear, life just becomes so much easier, right?
Yeah. And so I think going back to your question, like, you know, I do envision the process programming taking up probably more of my time on a daily basis. I think Coastal, as long as Coastal's here, is always going to be my home, and it's going to be where we're all stationed out of. But yeah, there is going to be a point in time where the process program is going to become bigger and larger than Coastal. And that's just in the business model. It's highly scalable, and it's a global business, and it's an online business. And I think, you know, when I look around this team here, like I can see so many potential leaders within this team already, people who are emerging, who could easily take on the role that I'm doing. And of course the team will have to grow. Like, you know, we've got a general manager right now in Izzy who does Coastal and the process. But sooner or later, we're going to have the process program is going to have its own general manager, and maybe someone steps in and runs it here. And like we talk about grand visions. Like I want to have the process program in headquarters. I want to have an HQ, which, is perhaps it's an affiliate where we have actual members every day that come in and train, but I essentially want it to be a hub for our clients around the world to be able to come,
seminars,
run our seminars,
camps.
Run our camps, do one-on-one small group coaching there with the people who just follow the programs online. I want to have that hub somewhere. We were chatting about where that's going to be.
So many places it could be.
So
many places.
We were talking about Europe, somewhere like south of France or Spain, somewhere hot,
somewhere sunny, somewhere sunny.
It's got to be.
Taps off.
We were talking about potentially Thailand or somewhere in Southeast Asia, because I guess Asia right now is our hub, but I definitely don't want to say that that's going to be our market forever. I think we're going to evolve and grow beyond that one day. I don't know. There's so many potential places it could be. So if you're listening and you've got ideas of where you think a process program HQ should be, please reach out to us and we will make it happen. Liam, anything else?
No, just like I know we had that conversation yesterday, and I went home and I sat with my wife Petra, and I was like, Petra, this is so exciting. There's so much work to do. And then just reflecting back and then just having this conversation again and sharing it with you guys. I hope you guys are as excited as we are, because it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And we will keep you updated on the journey. Liam, thank you very much.
Welcome.